Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a royalty edition here of Kerfuffle Podcast. I am joined by the overall winners of EA Masters this year, JDG Estate Agents, Michelle and Josh, and the trophy itself. I did insist that the trophy had to be there, didn't I? Because I need it to bask in its glory. Josh, Michelle, congratulations. How are you?
Well, good. I'm catching up on my sleep. You know?
I find just fight the way through and it all sorts itself out. You are looking far too sensible for somebody who's won the biggest trophy there is to win.
It's not sunk in really, has it? Yeah, it all seems a bit overwhelming. It's like very unexpected. So we kind of just trying to come to terms with it, aren't we, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's expected. I was out valuing yesterday morning because I'd already booked the diary as a normal work day.
That's insanity, but it is, dare I say it, part of the humbleness that makes you as endearing as you are. So, first of all, I always have to start off with an apology because of my behaviour. As we all know, Simon Whale is never more than 4 feet away from a trophy when it's given at an estate agency presentation. And I think it was about 16 seconds before you'd won the big award that I descended on you. And I took it upon myself that I had to make you meet everybody in the room that mattered, didn't it? Because you were almost trying to hide that thing from what I remember. and I was having none of that. I wanted to hold you out there for everyone to see.
Yeah, it was sort of like, oh my God, has that just happened?
Yeah.
Michelle, if I can just say, I know what you feel like waking up the morning after and the whole world knows your name, because I'll tell you my little EA Masters story. I was packing up the kerfuffle stand and I had to sort of walk it all back to the car. And there's a little, it's in the park for anybody that wasn't at the EA Masters. There's a beautiful venue in the park, but at night it's quite dark. I'm walking up this little side path to get back to the car park, and I can see a few agents walking towards me. They can't really see me. And as they're going past, I can just hear the girl ask her colleague, who was that fat guy that was up on stage with Simon Whale? So I guess what I'm saying is I know as well what it's like to have arrived in the industry, that everybody knows who you are.
Well, that's how at the after show party, that's kind of how it felt, because you go in there and Josh was saying, obviously from the night before, you know everybody. I was like, well, no, I don't actually. I know a few. I was talking to Tom McGee before the win, and he was saying, isn't it weird, we think we know so many people, but we hardly know anybody here. And they're not all...
It is, Michelle, it's a really important point, that, isn't it? A lot of people, the minute that some awards start given online, there's the normal, they're bought, they're this, they're that, they're a get-together club. What people I don't think really understand is actually the power of networking at some of those events. You guys are far more connected than most already on Facebook. There's people like Stephen Brown's group, there's people like the Guild, but actually, with over 80% of agents being 1 and 2 office agents in the industry, that's quite a diffused setup in the country, isn't it? And so I think those dues are so important to get together, to learn from other agents outside your area and just to understand what makes those guys tick as much as anything. Now, I've got to say something as well, Michelle, because there's a bit of a battle going on with myself and Mr. McGee, because as you will know from yesterday, let's just run through how you actually won this. So all 20,000 estate agents in the UK were put into this. They were evaluated independently by the 3 billion points data points off Rightmove that EA Masters use, the mystery shopping, the expert evaluation on your websites and everything. But I think the 2 main KPIs that people forget were that Tom McGee said you had a good chance of winning it a few weeks before, and I introduced you at the Kerfuffle party the night before as the Queen of the Market Appraisal. So you've got to now decide which of those 2 was most important in helping you win this award.
Oh, don't. That's not fair. That was John. That was John's just over there.
But just, you know what, just to reiterate what Simon was saying, I think the importance of this, and I sort of felt this the first year that Elle and Matt Wood, when they won their award, what's amazing is that it'd be dead easy to turn up to these awards and see big corporate branches take the usual names, if you like, take home the top gong. But to actually see an independent agency in, you know, a northern pocket, if you like, get that sort of attention and also recognition for the hard work that you've put in is tremendous. And I think that it shows that there's life in that independent estate agency market, and it does actually form the backbone of our industry. And yeah, well done to you.
Thank you. I mean, I wanted to say, I think a lot of it, obviously, I mean, I know John's is in the building somewhere, so he's not on here, he didn't come with us. But when we actually came out of lockdown, when we went into lockdown, John had very much a plan. And on day one, I was actually valuing virtually. Yeah. Now, I'd love to say I had all that planned, but it was John who said, we have to do something. We can't have 2007. You know, and on that day one, I was ready to go to my greenhouse to water some tomatoes. After I actually was going to call and say to my valuations, I'm so sorry, I've got to cancel. And as John said, we've been muttering on about virtual valuation, which was actually Luke Sinclair's idea.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of get cracked on.
So I feel like I know John only sort of through your reporting, because obviously we've known each other for a few years now, and John, aka Hubby, you know, has always been that voice of caution in the background, very sensible, very well established and well seasoned estate agent, maybe even for some might have been classed as old school back in the day, but really has got a very dynamic business, and he's had the confidence. I can see Josh looking off camera towards John. John, show yourself. No, do you know what though? For anybody that's been at the helm of an estate agency, especially somebody who's got the confidence to put their name above the door, to actually sort of hand it over. And when I say hand it over, to appoint you guys as that front-facing public face of the business, as you have done, that takes a different kind of confidence and leadership. And hats off to John. Yeah. I think it's really worked.
See, there you go. Oh, wait.
Oh, he's coming on. He's coming on.
Here we go.
No.
Hello.
There he is.
Yeah. You have to understand something here. It's not a new type of confidence, David. They actually found me a retirement home. Bring me out, dust me down, dress me up, and bring me in here. So, I'd have been asleep at the ports.
So, John, can I ask what was your? How did you hear? Were you tuned in? Did the guys phone you? What was the reception from the rest of the team when you heard the news yourself?
I work from home a little bit, to be honest with you, Simon. So, Missy had given me her login. Don't tell Peter tonight.
And I'll be taken away from you.
So I was bobbing in and out, sort of during the day, if you will, to see what was happening. And I was getting messages from Mish to say they're just about to start the awards.
Yeah.
Tune in and see me. I was that confident little bugger. Tune in and see me. You know, so. But then I was also getting little things saying, boo hoo, I didn't get an award. So I think in all honesty, the fact that they did get the award is just testament to the hard work that these two have put in. You know, I sit sort of in the background of the office and try to just give them guidance when they need it, but they'll only come into their own if they're trusted with the business.
So, John, you're Obi-Wan. You're basically Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're just steering these guys to help them be the best they can be.
They don't need me steering it, I'll be honest with you. They're going to be on the rocks.
John, just for those of us that don't know, John, give us just a brief background to the business. When did you set up? When did you start out?
I started in 1989, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I only started an estate agency because I wanted a Porsche. And the only person who knew that had a Porsche had an estate agent. So I thought, I'd get one of them. So that's why I started an estate agency, to be honest with you. And it just grew from there. So,
and John, what do you think? I mean, you spoke about very kindly about these guys, and I think everyone's is so impressed. We've spoken about obviously the market appraisal. People like Susanna Mavity from Ackerboom describe your market appraisal process as absolutely superb. Your personal videos, Michelle, really come across. Obviously, and I was interested before I throw my 2 pence in. What do you think it is that sets you apart?
I think the fact that we've been here quite some time. Hello, Boots. There is a big repeat business, so there's a trust element to it. But I think the marketing these 2 guys do, they've embraced social media.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, I can see social media becoming more important than ever going forward. And I think there was a comment made by somebody at the awards ceremony the other day that 18% of traffic now goes back to your website, direct to your website. So, to me, going forward, previously we've used social media very, very well, and I think that's down to Michelle, because she loves the 15 minutes of fame. But I think we've got to embrace it even more going forward. And I think the market appraisals that we took up when lockdown came was just a way of saying, look, we're still here, we can still sell your house, rather than, I think a lot of agents thought, probably we don't know what to do. But because Michelle was, I think because Michelle was the queen of social media at the time, a profile was out there. So we just sort of carried on with that and saying to people, look, we can value your house, it's just a different way of doing it. But the interesting thing though, Simon, to be honest, is Michelle always had an exceptionally high conversion rate as a valuer compared to the market average. But it's even higher doing it virtually.
Well, I jumped on that on a messenger with you, didn't I, Michelle? When I saw that you'd put that out on Facebook and was talking about lots of people had got into it, obviously because they had to, and then the minute they were able to get back out, they dropped it. And what I was absolutely and I think that's such a shame that people, threw the baby out with the bathwater, as it were. But with you getting such big efficiency wins by being able to do that and having that high conversion rate, that was incredible, and I think that's got to be one of the main things that stands you out from the crowd, doesn't it?
It is, because I think in my area now there's certainly only me doing it, and I went through a phase of actually being a bit offended that they prefer me virtually in real life. Do I smell? I was checking the armpits and everything. But we discussed this quite a bit, John and I, about why the conversion rate's higher that way. And I was saying this on the night before the event, talked to a few people who asked the same question. I've got a laser focus with somebody that's staring at a screen, just like now, we're staring at a screen. It feels rude to look away if something's happening in the background. Where when you're in a house face to face and the doorbell goes, the person will go to the door and chat to the Amazon man, and then they might even want to open the parcel as they're chatting to you. On a video call, they say, I'm so sorry, the doorbell's going. They say to the man, I'm sorry, I'm on a call, grab it, put it down, and they're straight back with you.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and they look at things in a lot more detail, maybe because they've got no choice, I don't know. But you do hold them a lot better, I find.
So what's really interesting there, Michelle, is we all talk about actually, I'm all zoomed out at the end of the day. It's a very real thing, isn't it, there? And I think what you're tapping into is because you have to have that level of intensity. Well, apart from when I'm on my kerfuffle calls and David goes to sleep, that's a different thing. But you do, don't you? You are in the room, you are staring at it, and that's where it can become quite difficult if you're. So you must be exhausted at the end of the day.
It's easier because I'm not going anywhere. I can sit in a lovely office. I've got a fireplace all switched on. You know, John very kindly keeps bringing me cups of coffee.
So here's a great question from somebody. Do you think that the virtual valuation works so well because people were already used to seeing and interacting with you via a screen due to social media videos? So really, that's you're the person from the telly. That's somebody that they know and trust, and really then to see you on screen, that works as well.
I think it helps having built a strong social media presence, but I equally think any estate agent can do it, because what you've got to remember is it's a bit like I lack confidence in certain ways. I know people don't always think that, but me walking into the party the night before was like, oh my God, can I actually do this? You know, and we had a pact, we had a little secret code. If we felt really uncomfortable, that we would leave. But on a valuation call, that person wants to speak to you. You know, so it's very different. And all I can describe it is from a past working in telesales, an incoming call, somebody wants to speak to you.
Yeah.
When you're outgoing calls, you're trying to grab their attention. So
Can I ask John a more personal question? John, I probably fall into the contingent of people that goes to work to get away from their better half. What's it like to go to work every day with the person that you effectively live with? Does it have its challenges, or do you have to make a separation between work, or is chat the whole time just a state agency?
Can I call you back later on?
That's the right answer.
To be honest, David, it works fantastically well. Mish and I spend 24 hours a day together every single day, and it's just a perfect relationship because we bounce off each other really, really well. Before Mish does all her valuation stuff, we'll actually sit down and go through Swift reports.
Yeah.
So it's very much a team effort. Certainly on the sales side, everything that we do, it's a joint thing. And letting side, well, to be honest with you, Josh is pretty damn good on his letting side, and you know. But again, I'm just there in the background if they need me. But the personal side of things with Mishy, you know, the only thing I try not to do with Mishy is let her drive the car. Because being in the boot time and it's bloody uncomfortable, especially when I've got the dog with me.
Do you commute to work together?
yes.
Yeah, we do.
Oh wow, it's full on. And Josh, these two are not allowed to answer the question. What's it like for you to work within a family unit? Then does that family ethos kind of run through the business? Do you feel part of the family, as it were?
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things. I've been a station only for 5 years, which is not a lot compared to everyone else. And one of the reasons I chose JDG when I moved back to Lancaster was for that family feeling. I've always enjoyed working in that sort of environment rather than a big corporate. You're just a number. It's not important here. You know, if I've got a problem or I've got an idea or anything, I can just pop up and talk to the bosses. You know, it's not like some HR office hidden away in the middle of London or something like that. You know, it's literally just here. We can chat, we can bounce ideas off each other and develop the business together. It's a much nicer feeling, as opposed to feel valued, because you have that personal relationship with all aspects of the company. So it makes a massive difference. And I think that's why our team does so well, is because we are that family unit. Back to what Stephen Covey was saying, it's about trust. We have such a small amount of people to work together. We have that trust between each other, so we can be effective and sort of build things together. So I think it's great working.
Josh, just let me just say, David, that was a really crap question. what the question should have been, Josh, was what's it like to work for Estate Agent of the Year? That was the. Also,
see, I know that Josh is so good. He doesn't need cheap accolades like Estate Agent of the Year.
I tell you what, it does come across there, though. You've actually nailed it there. For those people who weren't lucky enough to, you have to go and just have a look at Stephen Covey's book, based around Trusty's new book. It is. I was going to make it sound almost a bit too posh. It's a really important book because if you can get your head around that element there and how you can, not manufacture, but how you can double down on building that trust out there. That is what I was going to say. I was going to offer my 2 pence. We know that you can trust you guys as a business. That comes through at every touch point you have socially, and I'm sure when they have market appraisals, that sort of stuff can't be mimicked. There's lots of people out there that will say our clients come first, our staff come first. They might have it plastered all over the walls, but it comes through, doesn't it, time and time again in the way that you show yourselves out there. And I think, you spoke many times about the humbleness. As I said, I wouldn't have been in the office for about 3 to 4 days.
Oh God, this is a real tearjerker today, Simon.
Guys, can we just go back because Mr. Watkins has jumped in and he has just made this point here, and it was interesting because we were talking off camera. What is David and Simon's thoughts on the best way to promote an agent who has won awards without coming across as bragging and make the populations of one's town care you have won? I think we all agree pie charts is the way we've got to go with this.
It's interesting because when I went up to Michelle afterwards to congratulate her, I said, I think John might give us permission now to promote this award a little bit, because obviously, let's face it, you do have to pay for a license to be able to promote the fact that you've won the award, and whether or not that has value to an agent very much depends on how far they're going to push that in the marketing and what kind of award it is. I would argue that the award or the accolade that you've got is the highest award that you can achieve. This is the World Cup final, let's face it. And so and for that reason, it's absolutely worth promoting. And the question then, I suppose, that Chris is trying to get us to ask is, what value do awards have with members of the public? So is that going to be something that draws a member of the public to your team? My view of it's always been that it's never going to hurt. But you guys have got such a solid reputation in the town that you represent. It'd be hard to give you anything that would be more of a draw.
I think the particular award from the EA Masters in Rightmove, I think, has got an awful lot more value than any other awards. I don't want to mention any other awards, but a few weeks ago we were called to say, do you want to pay £399 and you'll be top sales agent in Lancaster? No, it doesn't mean a damn thing. I think this EA Masters Rightmove Award, I see it as hugely valuable, but I also see it as recognition for all the hard work these guys have done. So we will promote the hell out of it. It'll be on all the cars, it'll be across the windows, it'll be all over everything. And it'll be a watermark behind all the paperwork that goes out. It will be huge.
It is social proof, isn't it, though? As you said, people know you, they trust you. This is just vindication of that. And if you can't make best use of the fact that, look, every agent, but pretty much every agent in the UK is automatically entered into this, so it's not a subset as many others there. That's the critical element of this, isn't it? And as you said, yes, okay, me and Mr. Watkins might disagree, because I'd be quite happy to go out there happy clappy about it. I know you will do this in a very balanced fashion, but you do need to make best use of it, because it does matter. I truly believe it matters.
Yeah, it does. It's like David said, it cannot do any harm.
No.
It can only be good. It's just recognition for the guys, the work they've done.
Personally, I'm not going to be happy until I see a social media post with Boots sat on the tray, the actual tray, being held aloft by John like that. If that doesn't happen, I'm out.
It's done. Did you not hear, David? Did you not hear the Michelle's first job was to clean it down from 1,000 estate agents' thumbprints all over it, clawing at what they couldn't win, probably as she tried to make it out of the room alive.
Can I make a confession?
Go on.
John did like most of the polishing, just for the picture.
It's like doing the housework at home. You know, I get the dicing out when he's around the house and everything. And then, as Miss says, I'll put that way. She's just take a picture of me while I'm putting me away with it. You know, it's the same thing with that tray. I polish the living daylights. I tried to actually polish the names off, but
well, I'm gonna ask a question off the back of that. One of the reasons that Michelle and your agency in general have rose to such prominence on social media was this. You took this leap from blogs to vlogs at some point. So you were writing fantastic blog posts, which were really successful in generating interest. And they weren't, come and look at me, I'm the best sales agent in town. It was how to present your living room, 10 tips of what to tidy up before a viewing, all of these things, you know, that are, you and I know are really important. They're really generalized. They're enough to pique the interest of a standard member of the public. Even if they're not thinking of selling their house, I'd still click on, you know, 10 tips to make your living room not smell like wet dog. So if you did that, you then switched over to vlogging, effectively putting those blogs onto video. And I remember when you first did it, a lot of people ran out to try and copy it. Does that feel, and initially that must have irked you a little bit if it was close to home, but that's a massive compliment, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people sort of copying the video bit didn't really upset me because that wasn't actually my idea anyway. You know, I mean, the blogging journey began actually going back to the very early Twitter days when I met Andrea Morgan. She asked me to write a blog about our Huff house that had been built. And I had to reply back and say, what's a blog? And then she told me basically, she still broke it down saying, it's a web version of what you write in the newspaper, because we had a written column rather than pictures of houses. We had some houses, but we wanted to hold attention to our page. So we had the blog in written format before the word blog even came out. So Andrea basically said, that's all you're doing, but it's now called a blog. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can just recycle all my newspapers into a blog. And then it was through Facebook groups, obviously with Landlord Farming, and with, you know, Chris, obviously Stephen Brown's been a mega influence and support in saying, you've got to take this now to the next step, but all we have to do is recycle what you've done, but just make it into a blog.
I think that's always been part of why you're successful on social media, is that you're always trying to make something new, evolve with the times. I think you can find some agents who are sort of stuck with specific ways of doing things, whereas we are constantly trying to find new things to do. And like I say, it's not always loads of extra work because you can recycle things, but in a new way that is capturing today's audience, because today's audience is completely different to the audience from 5 years ago. And I think that's why you're particularly successful on social media, is because we are trying to capture people's attention in different ways to keep in line with the times. That's what's important.
And your local area is sort of unique. I mean, I'm cheating a little bit because I've been part of Michelle's mastermind group with Stephen Brown for a few years, so I kind of know a little bit behind the scenes. But as I understand it, newspaper advertising has not died out completely in the town that you represent.
It did very, very well up until the pandemic. And with the pandemic, the newspaper sales dropped from
18,000 to about 4.5.
Yeah, 18,000 to 4.5, and it never recovered. And we never went back in because of that. But then we turned our focus more to spending more on social media with advertising and campaigns.
But you held out for years, whilst most of us had said, look, we binned off newspaper advertising years ago. But you weren't necessarily saying, look, this is a 3-bed semi at a great price, come and get it. it was your columns and your pieces that people were drawn to. And to me, that is a little bit of secret of success, because we all do blogs and we all do vlogs and so on. And I think the more old-fashioned of us could probably dismiss it as being just website filler. Nobody's ever going to read it. It'll just sit there, and it's good for SEO. But it's more than that. It gives somebody confidence that you know what you're talking about and you're an expert. And more importantly, I think that enthusiasm that you've got and that passion that you've got for property, because you do get very excited about it, it comes across, doesn't it?
Thank you. Just going back on the video, but Josh was actually our very first video person, because he did the training that I avoided doing because I was going to be too scared of the camera. And it was Josh that actually taught me how to then.
Took a lot of convincing to get you on.
I was several months behind Josh through probably fear, and fear that I talk too fast, fear that I've got monkey teeth, fear of how to look on the camera, fear of stuttering. But yeah, Josh.
Oh yeah, I mean, we used to cringe when we look back at our old videos, but you've got to start somewhere, and we've just developed it since then with the help of.
And it is possible some of us get worse over time, don't they, David? Yeah,
some of us do get worse over time, but talk if something that has matured like a fine wine and has just become better and better over the years. John, if I could ask you a question. I remember the last video that you did was your 007 video. Now that Daniel Craig has hung up his bow tie and Walther PPK for the last time, are we going to see John stepping up to
that was what we were really here for today.
We want to know, are you up for it?
To be fair, no, I wouldn't want to be James Bond, because I'll be honest with you, every thank you card that we get in from our clients for years, I've always written across the bottom, John for Prime Minister. But right now, I don't even want that job, to be fair.
Yeah, John, I think Prime Minister is less James Bond and a little bit more Mission Impossible, to be honest.
But I couldn't do James Bond because I can't get up the stairs.
Michelle, can I ask just one follow-up question to that? Because it strikes me, you're willing to adapt, evolve, as all great businesses do. But also there, where David was talking about, while it was still working for you, we were happy to work with traditional modes of marketing and everything else. Do you measure the ROI very closely of the different things you do? Is that one of the differences there? Are you religious about checking what does work, or is it a gut feel? Just talk to us about how you take the approach of looking at different marketing methods.
I would love to say yes, we check everything, but the answer is probably nowhere near good enough. All I can say when I was using newspapers is that I had what I called a fluffy column, which was where to put your cushions and light your fire and how your house smells. And I had a serious column, which was basically market update reports as to what's actually happening in the market. And probably the only way I actually judged it was on evaluation. I knew somebody had read it because they'd either mentioned the market report to me, asked me questions about it, or they would tell me that they put the cushion near and wanted to make sure that the bunch of flowers in the right place on the table. And at that time, the only place they could have actually seen that was actually in the newspaper. So when we talked several times, and we did reassess quite often about do we pull out, and we did cut down on the newspaper adverts. At one point, I think there were 6 pages or.
Yeah, we did. We used, when the newspaper was the prominent sort of way to be advertising, we would take as many pages as everybody else, but I think that was just damn good selling on the newspaper's part. Coming in and saying, they've got 6 pages, you need 6 pages, so we did it. But what enabled us to actually stay in the newspaper was that they actually kept cutting the price to keep the agents in. But it came to a point where we didn't need it, and I think speaking to the local news agents to ask them how many actually copies they were selling, it became pretty obvious that there was less and less and less sort of relevance on the newspapers. We just took that money and put it into social media.
Yeah.
And going back to Mishy's blogs and vlogs and various other things, I think the important thing with them is that they're actually of interest to more than just people who are thinking of selling the house, because it's like now there's probably 1.5%, 1% of people actually selling a house at the moment. So we've got to make them blogs, whatever you want to call them, they've got to appeal to the mass, so that when they actually do think about selling a house, they think of us.
You're just continually building that brand year on year on year on year for the time when they're right. You know you're going to be one of the two agents, or hopefully the only agent invited through that door, whether it's virtual or otherwise.
Exactly. And
Okay,
that's what Mish's blogs are about at the moment. And same with Josh on the rental side. It's all about trying to capture future business.
Can you hear that shouting in the background? Because Mr. Watkins clearly wasn't happy with what we said before, so he's been all these. You can hear some groaning from Grantham at the moment. Of course, he says you need to promote the award. He was asking how. So, Michelle, given that it's only been 24 hours, I think that's probably a bit presumptuous of Chris to be doing it. Have you got any ideas about exactly how you will do it?
I mean, I'm making a list at the moment of all the things that I need to change.
Okay.
So, for instance, like Property Jungle have already been in touch to say congratulations. We need to talk about new artwork and update homepages and things. We'll have all the email headers, obviously, to change all of those. John was already saying about watermarking with the actual things. Probably we're thinking on the floor plans.
Yeah.
I don't think Rightmove will let me put it on every single picture. Yeah, telephone message. So John's idea yesterday and Josh's was the answer, you know, when they call up the answer machine, not answer machine message, switchboard, we'll have it on there. So it's like the welcome message, short but sweet. And it's just really kind of getting that list together and then getting it all ticked off. I'm hoping that the event will go onto the EA Master swap card. So I can actually use the video bit where we actually go up. And maybe use that on my Facebook header profile.
Yeah.
Collecting clicks.
I think the challenge in all of this, and it always is, if you're excellent at what you do and you want to sort of promote that, the challenge in getting that across to the public is doing it in a way that is full of humility, if you like, and that it doesn't come across as bragging. Because it'd be dead easy just to have a picture of you being held aloft with that, you know, with that trophy being carried on the shoulders of all those people in your town, a parade, a ticker tape parade on your way home and all that sort of stuff. But that isn't what the public necessarily want to see. You've also got to be concerned, I suppose, about not being too in your face flashy, because you're still a very personal local agent, and that's what they're buying. So that it's striking that balance, isn't it?
Well, I said this to John yesterday before my first valuation call. How do I actually say, guess what? We won yesterday, because they've got no idea we were there yesterday.
No.
Just, you know, and I thought about it, and as it was, you'd seen our Facebook post anyway, so you know that really did help. But I still had to make sure I focused on her house.
What's it doing for her?
For them.
And that is where, Michelle, doesn't it? All of those data points they're talking about, that there are metrics here for how well you've done in terms of conversion rates, in terms of time on the market for people's homes. So there is a very real credible benefit for your clients. And the other thing is, I think we've got to remember is, two different companies can say the same thing and be perceived in completely different ways. And it all comes down to whether they're loved or not. So if, let's say, a more cynical company had gone out there and, as John was talking about, had bought that award from the unnamed company earlier, then went all happy clappy with it, yes, the people who know them in that local market will sense that that's a rat. They will just not buy into it. But dare I say it, if they know you as a business, they are going to give you a lot of leeway to enjoy your moment in the sun, as it were, there. And again, as long as it's not too over the top in the way that I would definitely do it, yeah, you guys, of course, will marry that there. And I think, you know, we have to loosen up a little bit, don't we? There is a time where we can enjoy taking the plaudits for what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously, in particular, Chris hates the Brighton pie chart, and I've always argued, and David knows, I use that on every opportunity. It's just now where I balance the award and the Brighton pie chart. I don't sort of like make it too much about that.
Oh, but Michelle, this is the pie chart of all pie charts. You've got a pie chart with 20,000 estate agents, and then you've got one slither there, and that's JDG. That's got to be it.
Exactly. So it's yes, we will certainly use it, won't we?
It'll be used subtly over the whole 12-month period.
Well, I'll tell you what we'd like to do is as well, we'd like to check in with you and see how that's going, because it comes up regularly, doesn't it? And I know from speaking to fantastic people who have won these, the background of these awards in the past, people like the Romans, people like Carl Tatler, you know, they definitely got the bounce from it if it was done in the right way. So let's see how that comes and what success you're having with it, because I think, you know, it'd be lovely to hear that it has reinforced what is already obviously clearly a spectacular business at the moment.
Yeah, it can't be done brash. It's got to be done subtly.
Yeah.
And we'll just hopefully have it in the background all the time. But the one thing I would say that is a complete winner for Mishi is a pie chart, because when you've got a big percentage of that, a big slice of that pie, and you can actually show people that, it works tremendously.
Yeah, it does. And I know from an agent that, speaking as an agent, that always hated those pie charts, because the difference between me and my local competitor was just this little bit. But I think as a representation to members of the public, the reason why people say they hate pie charts, and the reason why Chris Watkin always says that no one else except for you guys is allowed to use them, is the fact that they are so damn effective, because it's a very quick visual representation of the amount of trust that the local marketplace has put with you. So as much as, yes, you've sold more than anybody else, and you may have sold 4 more, those are all very important metrics. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to the same thing, that somebody else that's looking to sell a house is like me, and people like me are choosing people like you to sell them. And I think that's a great sort of validity of that trust.
One thing I was thinking before as well, that 5, 6, 7 years ago, Mishi was very, very good at her job, but she didn't have the confidence that she actually has now. The confidence that, you know, she goes out there now thinking that she's going to get the business because she's got a good team behind her. And I have to say, I think that has come. I can walk Mishi along the front in Lytham and tell her, you know, try this, try that, try the other. And she doesn't believe a bloody word I say. And then she goes down to Birmingham to this bloke called Stephen Brown. He tells her exactly the same thing, and she comes back and says, "Guess what Stephen told me today?"
I was about to ask John if all those days that she spent with me in Birmingham has really, you know, improved her as an agent. And I'd like to think that I know that we get a great deal of value out of those days with Stephen. And I think what's nice about it is that you can't sit down with all the other agents in your town and share what's working well and share tips, because it's major competition and it can get nasty. But in that room, when you walk in, there is no judgment. There's nobody with competing interests. And all of us would agree that we can all share each other's ideas and content and whatever it needs to be to allow you to achieve your goal. And I know I walk away feeling a lot more confident, and there's always new tricks to learn. And you're right, John, hearing that off your own partner or the people that you work with is one thing, but sometimes you need to go outside of the family in order to sort of get that, hear it from a stranger, as it were, and it does underline all of it.
100%. But since Mishi started, when she joined the Birmingham group, the first 2 or 3 times she went, I'll be perfectly honest with you, she was saying to me, "But they're all better than me. They're all better than me. I don't know anything." And I'd say to her, "But, you know, there's nobody better than us. You know, we're all equal people. You know, you get out what you put in." And I have to say, Stephen Brown and probably the other guys in the group, there's a guy called David there that's not much help, I don't believe.
David got the umbrella.
Oh, thanks for the brolly, David.
Yeah, no, pleasure.
The confidence that Mish has grown with Mish since she started going to the Birmingham group is unbelievable. And now she does go out there thinking, "I can get this business. You know, I am one of the better estate agents. And I think part of the success of the award has to go back to Stephen, personally.
Yes, I'd agree.
And here's a word from Stephen himself. Thank you for the mention, John. Michelle Gallagher should take all the credit for taking action and implementation.
And I'm just gonna have to interrupt there. He can't have any more trophies. His trophy room is bursting. He's getting industrial deliveries of Mr. Sheen to cope with all the ones.
Stephen Brown can't walk into a room of people without them standing up and applauding him. But he's done tremendously well this year.
I get that in Weatherspoons, David. But one thing I would say is, and I don't know if you picked up on this because you were probably caught in the headlights, and I said this when I spoke to Stephen yesterday, that all awards are not equal, and I don't just mean that in terms of where you've won them, but the way that you are actually received as well tells you an awful lot about where I believe you are in the industry. One of the proudest moments I have when, let's face it, no one really cares too much about the suppliers and supplier awards, but when we won the overall supplier award and we got a really nice warm feeling, that was one of the moments I felt was there. You had a absolutely amazing accolade there. People were genuinely on their feet cheering you, and I think that shows more than anything actually as to how well deserved it was. And it was the same with Stephen again, wasn't it? You know, when he's named there, even though unfortunately he couldn't have been there, it didn't stop everyone again completely going off. So I think that's a key point really you want to reflect on over the coming weeks.
It was just very surreal, wasn't it? Because you know, you look at the table plan and you think, oh my God, we're sat centre near stage. And then you go in and then you're on this table, which is like literally a Paramount table. Yeah. You know, you've never met these guys, but you've heard so much about them and the London agents, and you're thinking, we're just us two from Lancaster. You know, and someone in the table said, where's Lancaster? You know, everyone knows where London is. You know, so you kind of feel sort of big deep breath, big girl pants on, you know, make conversation, you've got to hold your own here. And of course, you know, as fully expected and fully deserved, you know, they won 2 major awards.
Amazing.
Them on and I'm grabbing the girl's phone next to me to take the pictures for them and things.
I think your biggest concern, Michelle, should have been you were so close to the kerfuffle tables. Paramount, Spencer and the team there, Reagan, they're fantastic. They were, and I love that as well, wasn't it? As you said, whoever did do the table was quite a brave or courageous decision to put you guys on there, but they were the first to cheer you on, weren't they? Which again is lovely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I know Tom really well, and I said to Tom, I feel so sort of outnumbered, and he went, "Is it politically correct to move table because we've got 2 no-shows on ours?" You know. And I was like, I think it might be offensive to do that. I said, but I'll come afterwards, but I have to put it in and we'll make a polite sort of, you know, it's lovely meeting you. But of course, everything just changed, didn't it? And to be fair, they were lovely hosts, so to speak. Yeah. It was just, again, how I think.
Yeah, we were just like,
yeah. And we both felt the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know,
it's a big thing. Like I say, we are only a small agency in the northwest, and you know, when you do go down to London, I mean, London itself is a whole different world, isn't it, compared to Lancaster? Lancaster's a beautiful city, but when you come to somewhere so bustling and metropolitan, and then you're in this room full of predominantly, you know, London agents, it is a bit sort of daunting, isn't it? But like you said, they were lovely, and everyone that we spoke to was lovely. It's a nice award because everyone's there to network.
I'll tell you what it was, Josh. I'll tell you what I liked about your preparation for the big day. You did the classic Northerners thing, didn't you? Into Harrods. You were getting checked in across all these places. All I needed was the Big Ben picture, and that was it for me.
Buckingham Palace as Jonathan.
Yeah. But you realise you're trapped now. You've got to do this every single year now, do exactly the same thing just to keep it going.
We're actually going to work on some events for Northerners because I think when Peter took his roadshow on the road, and he did one in Manchester, I think he did one in Newcastle if I'm not mistaken. I think there is a part of me that thinks that sometimes the awards and all this sort of stuff can be very London centric. And I think Kerfuffle should probably do some Northern exposure next year.
And,
Well,
and
given that we're chippy northerners, it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? So
precisely.
good.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to leave you here because I am absolutely certain you have got to double down on all this. I want to say again from my own heart and everyone at Kerfuffle here, but I think pretty much the whole industry, you're going to be a resoundingly well-deserving champions there. Hope you have the very best time with it and enjoy your weekends.
And a massive thank you to John for coming on the show, because he's camera shy, but look, there he is, looking good.
If you can't relax with us, who can you relax with?
Thanks, guys. I really, really appreciate you giving us this time this morning.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Have a great one, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.